again Struck, today I'm bringing you a guide for the Tower of Trials in Godfall, and in particular it's about the Ascended Tower of Trials. It will be short and I'm gonna try and tell you things such as tips and hints regarding who to kill first, how to manage your kills, things about what the different door symbols mean, and I think it would be best if I just provide you all that information one after the other, starting with the doors, then moving on to showing you a visual guide of the doors and the symbols, then moving on to the tips such as priority targets to kill, what to do with your Archon, Fury and banners, what to do with your keys, what to do with your boons and things like that. So what is the Tower of Trials? Let's provide you a short description. The Ascended Tower of Trials is an endless endgame activity in Godfall. You fight in two locations, an elevator and in rooms which are located on floors that you travel to, you keep climbing. So you start from floor 1 and you keep climbing endlessly. This endgame mode has no end. It used to be kind of a for normal and easy, it used to end after level 10, but today I was able on easy to reach stage 11. That means level 10 is no longer the end. Maybe level 10 is the end in the regular Tower of Trials, not the Ascended, but the Ascended seems to be endless. At least it's definitely not level 10 where the normal and easy ends. We do know that the hard mode never ended, and some people have sent me screenshots of level 50 something that they've reached, obviously probably with abusing some glitches, and someone has also posted on Reddit that they've reached floor 210. Obviously again must have used some sort of a cheat or a trainer or whatever else works in the game. The way it works is it's easy. Each stage 4 starts with an elevator fight. In this fight, the faster you kill all the enemies, the more keys you can get. Some floors can give you up to 2 keys, some floors can give you up to 3 keys, some floors can give you up to 4 keys. And there's gonna be different thresholds, and if you lose the time for that threshold, you move on to having 1 less key, and you can have, for example, a floor with 4 keys and you can get maybe 2 keys or 1 key or 3 keys depending on how quickly you did it, or even 0 keys if you miss the threshold for the final key. Now, next you're given a choice of 2, 3 or 4 doors. For more info on those in a moment in the next segment. And each door can take you to a specific room with enemies to fight. And after you fight those enemies, there's gonna be wood chests or a boon spring. There are some cases where there will be no enemies to fight, and those rooms are called safe havens. And more about those again later. So you fight enemies, and then you would either see, depending on the room type, a bunch of chests, and those chests, their rarity would depend on the rarity on the door. So if you go to a purple door, there will be at least 1 purple chest. If you go to an orange door, there will be at least 1 orange chest. And depending on what door type you open, there would be different types of chests. So if you go for a door that has the hammer symbol, there would be chests that drop hammers. If it's a door with a augment symbol for might augments, there will be might augments. And again, you have a guaranteed chest of the rarity of the door, and that guaranteed chest has a guarantee to drop at least 1 item of that rarity. So if it's a purple door with hammers, and there would be 1 purple chest with hammers, and the other chest would be hammer chest but blue and green. And the purple chest can have at least 1 purple item. Obviously every chest can drop higher difficulty, higher rarity items, so a purple chest can still drop orange, and a blue and a green can also drop orange, but the chances are much lower than those, and it's not guaranteed. The chest would also cost you keys to open, and it's as follows. Orange chests cost 10 keys, purple chests cost 7 keys, blue chests cost 5 keys, and green chests are free to open. So there would always be a green chest if it's an item, if it's a wood room. Although if it's a safe haven, you can guarantee that there's gonna be a green chest. It might be just blue chests and a boon, but more about those later. And yeah, if it's a Boon Room, the other thing I mentioned, then The boon is free of charge. You have to fight enemies and then you would see a boon spring, which is kind of like a buff station. You interact with the buff station and then you are given a choice of 3 boons to pick. So if it's an offensive Boon Room, you're gonna be given choices between some offensive stats. If it's utility, between utility stats. If it's a defensive one, between defensive stats. There are also some specific things about the safe haven that I mentioned. So the boons, they are free, they're free of charge, 0 keys to use. But if it's a safe haven that has a boon, then you would have to pay a price which I think is equal to the rarity of the chests. So based on the rarity of the boon station, you would have to pay some keys. I'm not sure how exactly it works, if it's exactly the same as the chest, but that's what it seems to me. And I think now it's perfect time to move on to doors and deciphering the symbols behind those doors. So there are a few types of doors, each with their own distinguishing symbols. I categorize those as follows: Boon Rooms, Wood Item Rooms, Augment Rooms, Safe Haven Rooms, and Key Rooms. I would talk about the Boon Rooms first. So as I said, it's a room that contains a boon spring, which is a device that you interact with and select one boon buff from a choice of 3 randomly generated ones. And depending on the rarity of the boon station and the room, the strength of this would be better. So you can get 30%, 45%, 60% or more percent of a certain damage, or chances to do something else, or for example 20 or 40 or more health recovery and things like that. So each of those 3 boon rooms, boon room types, has its own dedicated door and symbol. There's a symbol that looks like a lion head with 4 dots, that's for offensive. The one that looks like a heart with the 4 dots, it's the defensive, and the one that looks like wings with the 4 dots is of course the utility one. And in the Boon Room, as I mentioned, you have to defeat enemies before the boon spring appears, and don't forget to interact with the boon spring before you leave the room, otherwise you can go back once you've reached the elevator, the door would close behind you. Now let's move on to Wood Item Rooms. Let's show you some screenshots and let's provide some information about those rooms. So that's a room that contains wood chests, which could drop items that you equip, such as weapons, banners, wipe stones, and all sorts of trinkets. Each item type has its own dedicated room and door symbol, and you have to defeat enemies before the chests appear. And as I mentioned, the chest type is pre-decided based on the room, and the chest's rarities that you can see are also pre-decided based on the room rarity. So you can see there's a lot of different types. For example, there's longsword rooms, greatsword rooms, dual blades, polearms, banners, hammers, amulets, charms, and wipe stones. And there's one symbol that people are saying is wipe stones, but I've gotten things that are not just wipe stones from it, so that's kind of a sketchy thing there. And there's also one special symbol that I've gotten all sorts of bladed weapons, long swords, great swords, dual blades, etc. So maybe it just stands for a weapon, or maybe it's just a duplicate of something else. It's very weird, because you have one for long swords, great swords, dual blades, polearms, and hammers, and then you have that one symbol which kind of represents maybe all types of weapons, where I've gotten all sorts of things from it. Maybe it's a bug, maybe it's intended, maybe it's something that was left over from before some old updates. Now the other type of room is Augment Room. And Augment Rooms are rooms that contain a wood chest which could drop augments, which you put into your augment slots in your Valor plate. There are 3 subtypes of Augment Rooms: Might, Vitality, and Spirit Augment Rooms. Each of those 3 Augment room types has its own dedicated door and symbol, and you have to defeat enemies before the chests appear, just like in the Wood Item Rooms. This follows a similar icon symbol mechanic as the Boon Room. So you would see that lion head, but with an arrow on top of it instead of 4 dots. for the might ones. For the vitality ones, you would see a heart with an arrow on top of it, and for the utility spirit, for the spirit augments, you would see that arrow and something that looks like tentacles or medusa kind of jellyfish kind of things. So that would mean spirit boons. All of them, again, just like the wood rooms, have the wood, the boons, not the boons, but the augments would depend on the type of rarity of the door. So if the door is orange, you would have a guaranteed chest that's orange that contains augments, and a bunch of other chests that contain augments but that are lower rarities. And if it's a blue one, you would have probably 2 blue chests or 1 blue chest, and the rest would be green. In general, those are probably what people would be after the most, because augments are the hardest to get. You can farm them, you can focus farm them in Dreamstones, and I can probably make a video about those and explain them in detail later. But you can also focus farm them here. Just you gotta get lucky and get a good Boon Room with decent rarity, purple or orange. Next we move on to safe haven rooms. Safe haven rooms are rooms that contain a wood chest, and not just one but multiple wood chests, and it could also contain a boon station. And they can drop all sorts of things. It's randomly generated, a random collection of chests, and sometimes a boon. Also, not just the type of chests, but also the rarities are random. But in general, if you go into a legendary safe haven, there's gonna be at least 1, sometimes more legendary chests, a bunch of maybe 1 purple, and then some yellows. Sometimes they might not even be a green chest. So with safe havens, green chests would probably be there only if it's a green safe haven, sometimes if it's a blue, but in general they would try to fill it with things that match the rarity of the safe haven, and there's not gonna be a fight. You go in there, there's just the chests and maybe a boon, sometimes without a boon, and the boon would cost you money, not money but keys to open, the same way chests do. So all the other rules that we talked about for boons and for the chest supply, with the exception that the boon just needs to be, you need to pay keys to use it, depending on the rarity. Then there's key rooms. Key rooms are rooms where you fight enemies and then you don't get chests, you don't get a boon station, you just get some extra keys, and those keys, the number of keys you get are based on the door symbol rarity. You can get 5, 4, 3 or 2 keys for orange, purple, blue or green respectively door symbols. And here's one more thing that I need to mention is sometimes you would go in a non-key room and you would still have a timer. I think it's a bug, but the timer from an elevator fight gets applied to a room, and if you kill the enemies in that room quickly enough, you get extra bonus keys before the chests appear or before the boon appears. I don't think that's intended, but if it is, it's a nice thing. Now, on your screen you should have seen throughout this segment all the icons of all the things I've talked about. And again, some of the things are broken, some of the things don't work as I intended, as those bladed webs and that cross symbol. So I've gotten wife stones from both the potion door room and from the cross door room, and the door that looks like a dagger has given me all sorts of bladed weapons, but keep in mind that there are bugs that make it so that you can go into one room but then the chests don't really match the door you opened. And there's also something that could be a bug or intended behavior, but I cannot get the boon rooms to spawn a boon if I've recently visited another boon room. So for example on 4.1 you're always given a choice between one of the 3 boon room types. And don't forget to interact with those again at the end of the fight. And after I pick a boon from 4.1 and I move on and I get a choice of a boon room in 4.2 or 4.3, this boon room won't contain actually boon spring, but it would contain chests with the boon spring symbol on top of them that normally would drop augments. but not always, they don't always drop augments, so it's a little bit different. So sometimes it would be augments, so sometimes it would be other stuff, and I think this might be a bug. And the augments normally would correspond to the boon type. So offensive would be might, defensive vitality, and utility would be spirit. So I think it's time to move on to the tips and hints segment. Now let's give you some tips and hints in regards to what you might want to do and not do in the Ascended Tower of Trials, and as well in the regular Tower of Trials. I think the important thing to keep in mind would be to take out priority targets first. In my opinion, priority targets should be ranged enemies, healers, archers, gunners, mages that shoot some sort of projectiles. It could be small projectiles like void bolts. It could be those big charged void spheres. It could be in the big charged lightning spheres that they put on the ground that do a ton of damage. If you take those out first, it would make fighting the melee enemies, the ones that can knock you back easier, much quicker. So take out the priority targets, take out the ranged enemies first, and then move on to the melee ones. And sometimes there would be even mini bosses with ranged attacks. For example, this tight hunter or whatever it's called, the guy that throws shurikens non-stop and that has a chain leash attack. If you get this guy together with a melee guy with the bulky spiky hands, that's super quick. Or if you get two of those, you might want to separate them and kill the ranged guy first, divide and conquer, and it would really help you. Or sometimes you can go and fight the mages and the healers and the archers if they're regular enemies, not the mini bosses. Fight those, and while you're fighting those, the melee guys will come closer and you can just AoE them alongside those. Another thing that would really help you would be the bubble hammer. There's one hammer that can spawn a bubble, and then you can also get special items in the tower, the Ascended Tower of Trials, that drop items with multiple primary affixes, and the hammer can also drop with that bubble affix as well as any other one accompanying it. So this would really help in that. If you want to keep certain enemies far from you or sword, put them in the bubble, then deal with the others or deal with them while they're in the bubble. But yeah, in general, you can either go put the melee guys towards the ranged guys and AoE, or just divide and conquer and kill them one at a time. The next tip would be to save your Archon Fury and banners. Save the Archon Fury for when it's really needed. Maybe even save the banners too. I normally use the banner in the elevator to help with clearing speed to get more keys. And then I use the Archon Fury in the wood room. Especially if there's some mini bosses, the Archon Fury would really help there. I also save my hammer bubble for when inside the wood room. Unless it's very intense in the elevator and there's like a mini boss there and I need to use the bubble. But normally I just try to save things on long cooldowns for those types of fights. Another hint would be to build up keys during the first floors. So yeah, you would want to start saving up keys. Keep at least 20 keys at hand. If you can, even keep 30 keys at hand, so that whenever you get that good room, that legendary epic wood room, you would have enough keys built up so that you can open enough chests. So I would say for the first 10-15 floors you would want to get that good foundation of keys. Keep at least 20-25 if you can, and then you should be fine. Normally there's at least one chest that matches the door rarity, which is orange, purple, blue, green, and the others are of a lower rarity, although there is no lower rarity than green. Each of the lower rarity chests contains one guaranteed item matching the chest rarity and matching the chest type. In general, if it drops an item of higher rarity, for example, if it drops a legendary from a blue chest, it won't be always the same type is the same type as the chest. For example, let's say a legendary sword drops from a blue ring chest on a blue ring room. This may be either a bug or intended, I don't know, but it would be nice if I somehow get this confirmed to know if it's a bug or not. And the final tip and hint I could give you is to maybe build up boons as well. Stack up some boons in the early floors, you would really want those, and offensive boons are the best in my opinion. So focus on getting some offensive boons over the other boons for the first 10, 15, maybe more floors. And even after that, keep getting offensive boons unless your build is a survivability build and you want to just stack some more survivability on top of yours. But again, I still am not sure how good that would be, but it could work well. It could work well for some survivability, but in general, offensive gives you a good increase, especially if you stack damages that match your items. It would really help you in the long run to have a good foundation of DPS boosting stats to make the fights easier and quicker, and to take out targets that can be dangerous before they can do an annoying attack. And you might even try and take upgraded weapons of different elements with you. For example, a dual blade with air and a dual blade with water and a dual blade with earth and fire and void, just so you can have some choices. Of course, that's min-maxer kind of stuff. If you have enough items of the same type with good stats upgraded, you can take those. But this is only valid when you're not using an element-specific Valor plate. For example, you're not using Mobius for Void, or Typhoon for Water, or Vertigo for Air, or for Fire Phoenix, and so on. If you're not using that type of element-specific Valor plate, and you're not stacking elemental bonuses in your build, you don't have an element-specific build. For example, crit builds with Hinterquo, webtech builds, breach builds, etc. Builds that don't focus on stacking that elemental damage and can work with any element. Those builds would greatly benefit from taking various types of weapons and elements, so that you can swap out those weapons based on what boons you get. You could get boon with 30 or 40 or 50% hammer damage or dagger damage, I mean dual blades, or longsword, or you can get boon with 60 void or 60 fire or 60 air. So you might want to swap out, be prepared, so you can take the most out of those boons, because you're not always gonna get a boon that benefits you. It's pretty random, and sometimes if you're solo and you don't have a teammate that's using different elements or applying different ailments, then those would be useless boons to you. And I hope all the info I've provided you with during this guide is useful and helpful. If there's any more tips you would like to add them in the comment section below, and let me know, and my viewers that might be reading your comment about them as well. The game is new, we're still figuring things out. I personally am still figuring a lot of things out and getting used to it, but any other tips you would like to share them below, and don't be afraid to do so. To get notified when I upload more content like this or similar for this game or other games like it, such as Wooters of all varieties, you could subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button to not miss out on notifications, and optionally you can even join as a member of the Struck Club and get access to emotes, badges, or other perks such as private tutorials and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank the people who are currently YouTube members of the Struck Club. Thanks for watching this video, keep it cool, and until next time, Struck Club. Goodbye.